My brain was incredibly fuzzy today. I honestly don't know why. It wasn't one specific thing. I believe it was many factors that led to this fuzzy dilemma that I will share with you right now. It all started when I woke up at around 10:30. The problem, I needed to be at work at around 10. So I immediately called my job to let them know I would be late. So they got that information. And I hadn't taken a shower in like 3 days, so I decided to just do a really quick rinse before leaving. Not ideal circumstances, mostly because of the added pressure of needing to get to work in a timely manner due to my tardiness, but I had to do what I had to do. When I eventually arrived to work, after getting dressed, oh boy, I had this overwhelming feeling of guilt, shame, and embarrassment. Terrifying, I know. But it would appear that all was forgiven. So I decided I would go treat the day like any other, despite the late start. I was asked to help out one of my coworkers outside on lot, which is one of my favorite times of the day. There was one problem though, the weather, which I have no issue with. I love cloudy weather. My issue is when things start to rain and you don't have your rain boots on, which means you are at risk of getting your socks wet and then have to work the rest of the day with wet socks. Truly awful. I do not like that at all. Luckily, it wasn't raining as of that time, even though the weather app said it would be 85% chance of raining. So I worked at pushing the carts, and while I was pushing carts with my dear co-working friend, we discussed trying to get the company Disney back on track. We jokingly mentioned going in and taking over from Bob Iger, and then I would be the one to run the theme parks. The co-working friend I was with said he would be the one to buy up all of the companies from around the world, and then we'd get another coworker in who would choose who would work on what movie. And with this trio, we would unleash complete and total recreation and havoc, the good kind of havoc, into bringing back a golden age of Disney. To be honest though, we were just joking. Although I find the idea of one guy owning every company on the face of planet Earth through the Disney banner quite hilarious and amusing. After all of that, it was time to go back in. And back in I went. 2 very slow day. I bagged and was chatting with one of my coworkers, a cashier, longtime worker of the store. And we discussed many things that I'm trying to remember to make this video far more interesting and engaging. I'm having trouble, but if I could think of something, it would be, we were talking about scientists gene splicing human language genome into mice, whatever that means. But apparently, that's something that's happening right now. And it's making me think of the story The Secret of NIMH, which was originally a book that was adapted into an animated feature in the late 80s by an animation man named Don Bluth, which is a very good movie if you haven't checked it out. I believe it's on Amazon Prime. But after watching that and then hearing about this human genome gene splicing process done with the scientists, which I found out on a YouTube channel called Petrov, I believe. I'm not entirely sure, but this project, and it was fascinating. And I was talking with my cashier friend, and he said, they're gonna make him talk like in the cartoons. And so they were. Oh yeah. That would be kind of interesting. I wonder what mice have to say. I'd imagine they'd probably say something like, "Get me out of this box right now." We'll just have to wait and see. And finally, after all of that, it was time to go home for lunch. And with lunch, it was quite a delectable meal. I had the roast beef from last night with rice. Warmed it up in the microwave for about a minute. Took a while. I had to cut each and every slice off of the roast beef. Absolutely bonkers, but I managed. And when I was done, I made a PB&J that I would eat as a dessert for finishing the delectable lunch. Then my sister arrived, and when she arrived, boy oh boy, was it fantastic. She was going to be working with my mom on creating a special lotion project that shall be sold in due time for $45 or $40. I think it was $40, but it looked pretty awesome. Yeah. Then I drove back home, I drove from home to work again. And when I arrived, it was time to do front-end work, while making sure that I could bring in the delivery orders that were being notified through the phone. And I did just that. Many good times were had, many good smiles, many good questions were asked and answered to the customers and to me. Was there the most interesting question of them all? Honestly, I can't remember. I mostly just talk to help pass the time and keep my brain stimulated without getting bored, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But I guess it worked. Then it was time on my second hour to my gosh, that was my third hour I described to you, not my first hour back from lunch. I am so sorry. What happened on my first hour was that when I returned, it was time to do lot. And here is the cool and interesting thing about lot. When I started, there was no rain. Half hour, sprinkles. 45 minutes, starting to pour a little more. 55 minutes, pouring as hard as humanly possible. I can't believe it. Finally, right when I got out, it was insane. It was cats and dogs out there. Someone wanted to switch their lot with me, but I didn't have my rain boots on, so I said, no thank you. And so, when I got back in, it was sweeps time. Of course, I had to bag for a little while before someone came in, a courtesy clerk, to help me out by bagging for me so I could do my sweeps. And that's exactly what I did. Sweeped the floors in the produce area. Then I needed to use the restroom, and so I did that upstairs, probably from the coffee. That usually does make me need to go. And after all of that, I did a sweep through of the whole store, or as much as I could. Then one of my coworkers asked if they could take over my lot and I could do bagging. I agreed because honestly, I was getting exhausted from walking everywhere. And I believe that this was God's way of saying, you've earned this break, Noah. Take it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take it. Thank you, Lord. I don't know. There you go. So I took this break by working again. But before I continued my work, I asked for my last 10-minute break because it was the second hour and I felt like I earned it. And I was granted it. When I got upstairs, this is when the fuzzy mind feeling I was talking about earlier reared its ugly head. I opened up the YouTube app. And there was way too much stuff there to watch, and all of it captured my interest, I must admit. But I also must admit that it was just so much. It was too much. It was overwhelming. And I just was overwhelmed by all of it. I don't know how I could just absorb all of that. And to be honest, there were things that were genuinely interesting to me. But because it was surrounded by so much stuff that wasn't interesting to me, or looked mildly interesting but not that interesting, it made my brain just feel like it was working overtime to try to find something interesting to watch. I ended up just looking up something on my own about what happens to water after you drink it. Because right after I asked for my break, I did take my canteen to the closest restaurant and got some free water refilled in the canteen. And as I was drinking it, it made me wonder, where does water go after you drink it? And it was pretty educational what I learned, which was that once you drink it, it gets absorbed into your body, and then like your liver uses it to help like carry parts of your cells all around you for better circulation and health. And then like there's like a 1% that goes into your urinary tract. And then after that gets filled up after a while, it sends signals to your brain that you need to use the restroom. So all of that was quite interesting and very fascinating indeed. Yes. But I must admit, after doing some of that research, I just had this overwhelmingly fatigued and out of it feeling. And it's kind of making me self-reflect, self-wonder, why am I doing this YouTube browsing thing on my phone? You know, there's this app you can get on Google Chrome, a browser extension called Distraction Free YouTube. And what this does is it takes out any irrelevant searches on this app and just leaves the search bar. And it forces you to think about what you want to watch, so your brain doesn't have to be frazzled by all of the interesting but overall pointless videos that aren't pertaining to your interests. It's just feeding knowledge for the sake of feeding knowledge, just to be greedy, really. You're not applying it or using it for any notable purpose other than to simply just know more. And honestly, our brains were never designed to know everything. Our brains were designed to just take one or two or three tasks and then get really good at those tasks and then kind of have everything else branch off from there and work with the team to really make things work. And so when you have an age where there's just so much stuff getting pushed on you, that's interesting, sure, but ultimately sucking up your time, it just makes it hard to justify really wanting to continue that behavior. And I am just questioning, why should I be continuing this? I mean, there's good information I'm learning here, but there's also unuseful information as well. And so it just kind of, and it zaps my whole day. Like I say, I'm only going to watch one, and I end up watching hours and hours of content of things that ultimately I'm not going to remember, forget, or going to apply anytime soon. And that's a real problem. And I need to do something about that because it is making me feel so tired and so frazzle-minded. Don't like that at all. Moving on from that, I got back down from my last break, bagged for an hour, and then finally the last hour was spent doing a lot. And yes, I remember a little piece of information where I was helping one of my customer friends, their car, by having umbrella over their head while they were walking out, so that way they wouldn't get wet. I tried to go under the umbrella myself, but it was only big enough for one of them. Maybe I should have just given them the umbrella, but then they'd need someone to give it back to, so I guess there you go. I'm back out at lot, and I'm pushing carts to my heart's content, making sure the whole lot is cleared. And I'm doing the best job I can, and I do a good job. And then I punch out, say goodbye to all of my co-working friends, and drive home. Of course, before I drive home, I decide to browse on YouTube once again. There's this really fun video I watched of a guy who recorded himself singing one word of the song Smash Mouth's All-Star, like singing the whole song one word a day over the course of 14 months. And that was pretty cool to see. I very much enjoyed that. And as much as I give this algorithm thing a hard time, when it does get it right, it really gets it right. And so it's tough because I don't want to give it too much credit, but at the same time, I'll admit that it does give things I would have never found before. So it's like, it has a good and a bad side. I just wish there was a way where I could like dedicate just a 1 hour block of time just algorithm surfing, so I could find stuff I'd never find before, or maybe just a half hour. And that way, like once the hour's up, I can say, this is the shut-off valve, now I can move on and do something else with my time. Because there's some cool stuff you can learn just from algorithm searching, or not just learn, but experience, of course, and that's something to keep in mind. Well, after listening to that, I drove back to home, and my mom and sister were in the midst of developing their lotion, and they even wanted me to smell it, and they wanted to rub it on my hands, and asked me how it made me feel. And I will say it made me feel very relaxed. Very nice. I really much enjoyed it. They apparently got fajitas, and they had some leftovers in the fridge, and asked me if I wanted them, and I said yes. So I refried them on the pan, and then I heated up some fresh tortillas on the pan as well, and wrapped the fajitas into the tortillas, ate that, and boy oh boy was it tasty. Finally, after that, my sister needed to leave, so me, my mom, and my sister, and our eldest cat named Avery gathered around and sang our closing song to her before she left. And when we went outside, I noticed in the sky there was a red light that was surrounded by sort of a mist, and then it kind of went this way in the sky, and it just kind of drifted. And that was very unusual, seeing it surrounded by that mist and then created sort of a V shape. I don't know what it was, perhaps a plane, but the way it acted, it was interesting because it stayed in one spot and then just moved with a mist around it, and it had a little Y trail like this before the Y trail disappeared, and then eventually it disappeared. So not exactly sure what that was, but it was interesting. It kept my attention for quite a while. Finally, we got back into the house, and I decided to continue watching more YouTube. This is my addiction, very much so. And what exactly did I watch anyways? Well, if I remember correctly, I was watching This One Trick Helps You Become More Productive, and basically it's get used to being bored, and any external sources of stimuli that keep your mind from engaging with something productive but also keeps your mind from being completely bored is far more preferable than getting the easy dopamine fix while keeping your mind perpetually unbored while at the same time perpetually not doing anything productive. So that was pretty much what that video was in a nutshell. Another video was about how Google's search algorithm is completely destroyed because now a lot of the top results you get in Google Images or just when you're searching something on the front of the website is AI generated slop, which is very sad. Then after that was doing some UAP hunting on YouTube. Nothing really to talk about, just lights in the sky acting weird, but that's about it. Finally, after that, I got bored and decided to look at a video about the Xreal One glasses, a review of those augmented reality glasses, which basically is just a screen that's in front of your eyes, but on sunglasses. Looks dope. I really want a pair. Mostly because the idea of having your own personal theater-sized screen on a pair of sunglasses just sounds way too cool to pass up. After finally watching that, I was getting restless. I was getting this restless, annoyed feeling like I should be doing something important, and I'm not. And so I decided to put on a video as background noise of a lady talking about medieval beds while I was making this bed and folding clothes and putting them away, till eventually I realized I needed to make my update video. So put my phone in filming mode, I connected my external microphone, and now here I am. My overall rating for the day would be, it was okay, but the needle wasn't moved and I wasn't as responsible as I needed to be. And I need to be more responsible if I want to move the needle. So if we're going off of just pure experience, I'd say maybe like a 6 or a 7. If we're going off of progress, honestly, probably like a 2 or 3. I'm including recording this video as my progress. This is like the only thing I've been consistently doing since the beginning of the year. My journal, my external creative works and activities, being better artist, being better storyteller, being better animator, all of those things are kind of at the back burner. I mean, the last video I posted was like really terrible drawings, and the only reason why I did that was because I was watching a video of a guy in a podcast talk about how you can improve your speech and make things more engaging for you and the viewer. And so I decided to record me really tiredly re-explaining my day in the microphone, and this was like at 11 or it was like 12 at night. And then I sent the transcript to Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which is the smartest artificial intelligence chatbot, to simply just make it more cohesive, just easier to read while retaining my language and how I talk. And I thought it did a decent enough job with that. Then I asked it to color code when I should be speaking deep and then when I should be speaking high, and then putting all of that into sort of a script that I could read into my phone's microphone. I did that, and then I realized, shoot, am I going to have to memorize this while also recording a video for my YouTube channel? I don't want to do that. I know, I'll make some crude drawings and then stick them on a timeline on my phone's editing software, InShot. That'll do a good job. Yeah, I have to say, I mean, let me know if the voice recording was any good, but overall the drawings I thought were just lousy, obviously, but it was because I was like dead tired. I wanted to go to bed, but I also wanted to get something out on my YouTube channel. So there you go. Well, I think that does it for the update today. Overall, that mind-numbing feeling that I've been getting for a while, I have to say talking about it to you guys has really helped me clarify I value what should be more important to me, and that shouldn't be just mindless consumption for the sake of mindless consumption, but just to take what interests me, take what I enjoy, and use those as my guiding stars to create compelling and interesting videos that people will actually want to take time of their day to watch, that they'll get something out of. This is more for me, this whole personal video journal series, so this isn't really what I would call commercial work or whatever, but this is helping me sort of tie strings together and really understand what's going on inside my mind. I think it's very helpful. Very good. Well, thank you for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful night, day, morning, whatever time you're watching this. Good night, everybody.